Everyone, welcome. My name's Rodney Wolfenbarger. I have the pleasure of serving as director of the JMU Lifelong Learning Institute. This is Zoomtime Knowledge, which is our free public education and lecture series. Today, I'm joined by Sue G., our program assistant within LLI, and our special guest presenter, Dr. Bill Johnson, who is senior therapist and area director of GeriActive Physical Therapy. Today's presentation will be on injury prevention and wellness for the GeriActive individual. And I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Johnson. I have a little bit of bio, but I know he's going to add some additional details. Dr. Johnson is a board certified clinical specialist in orthopedic physical therapy, also a certified advanced golf fitness instructor. He has been practicing physical therapy for 26 years. Currently sees patients and clients in Harrisonburg, his home community. Today, you'll be seeing him presenting, I think, from his office. Dr. Johnson received his Bachelor of Science in Biology from Bridgewater College in 1991, a Master of Physical Therapy in 1994, and a Doctorate of Physical Therapy in 2005 from Shenandoah University. In addition to his current practice, he teaches numerous continuing education courses throughout the country. Dr. Johnson, welcome. At this point, I know we're seeing your screen share. We should be seeing your video feed. Anything else that you would like to add by way of introduction before beginning your presentation? I need to unmute.
We're back on?
You are. Sorry about that.
So, that's all right. I'll get the screen share back up again.
And while you're doing that, Bill, I do want to thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy person, taking the time out of your day today to fit this hour in and present to our learning community. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge with us.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So I got cut off there at the end. I guess you've introduced me pretty well. Ready to go?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Well, hello everybody. Thanks for letting me be a participant and take you through some different ideas or thoughts here at lunch today. And I just want to, he already introduced me, but I'm Bill Johnson. I'm a physical therapist and been practicing for just a little while. See if we can get this. There we go. So we're going to talk about injury prevention and wellness for the GeriActive individual. I think that's a lot nicer word than GeriActive versus geriatric, right? So we're in a population where 60s and 70 plus people are still being active, doing yoga, walking, hiking, biking, playing tennis, and we're seeing that in the clinic as well. And so it changes how we treat patients now in a way that back in the day, 10, 15, 20 years ago, at that age bracket, we were just focused on some simple activities, where now we're seeing folks 70s and 80s who are still very actively playing tennis at the country club or playing golf regularly or picking up pickleball or considering yoga, and they're a very active participant. So the whole word has now switched to GeriActive, and how do we work through that as a patient population. But today I want to talk more of what are your fears that we hear about in this population, and then how can we overcome those fears. And so I'm hoping everybody can hear me well. I'm going to keep talking. But for the fears that we're hearing is when you get to this age bracket, 70s and even in the 80s and older, what I hear is the fears are, well, if I fall, can I get up, right? What about my balance? I'm starting to lose balance, or I'm more wobbly when I walk, or I get to stoop posture and I want to get my posture better. So the talk today is going to be on addressing those main components, talk through some risk factors, if you will, but more of teaching ways that you can be proactive in maintaining good mobility, flexibility, stability, posture, and balance for injury prevention. So you can continue to live a quality of life as long as the Lord lets you live it, and continue to be a contributing member to our society and loving on your grandkids or your spouses or your friends or whoever will, and just be that very active life. So that's sort of the gist of it. We're going to go through this in a little more detail. But he already said I'm a physical therapist, local grad, went to Turner Ashby High School, then Bridgewater to get my master's and doctorate. My first job was in the Cincinnati area, I worked with a guy named, sitting on the screen, it says Bob Mangine at the time. In 1994, he was the leading national lecturer in shoulder and rehab, shoulder and knee rehab, and was affiliated with the Cincinnati Bengals and the U.S. Olympic diving team and the Cincinnati Ballet. So I got to do some pretty unique opportunities right out of PT school, working with high-end athletes and individuals that sort of shaped me into the career that I am now. Then opened up Advantage in 2001, Advantage Physical Therapy, and it started out as a golf fitness, for those who remember that in time, and then transitioned to sports performance. And I practiced there until I joined up with Dreyer in 2011. And now with Dreyer, I'm also a course developer and instructor. I lecture all across the country on shoulder and knee rehab, advanced principles of rehabilitation, and just kind of enjoying it. But right now, the COVID has shut that down pretty well. So hoping next year we'll get back into traveling the country and helping to empower and influence the next PTs to do stuff well and level on GeriActive people better. So physical therapy. What is physical therapy? It's kind of going to background of what that is, so we have understanding together of what physical therapy is. A lot of folks that believe in physical therapy understand physical therapy is they're working with somebody who had a stroke and there's in stroke rehab. Some folks on this call may have had physical therapy for rotator cuff repairs or knee replacements or hip replacements. But as physical therapists, we're a big, broad area of practice. And so I often say we're like movement or biomechanical specialists. So if I compare that to a working world, I would say we're auto mechanics of the body. We're body mechanics, right? And we work with people versus the car. I can't get a new oil filter off the shelf and give it to you. We got to work with the parts we have. And so we're biomechanical specialists. We have to know all the bones, muscles, arteries, nerves of the body, how they work well. And then if they're not working well, how do we help them to work more efficient and better? And so that's through that process, we have to understand form and function. So we have to understand how the body works from a kinesiology standpoint of joints and bones and tissues and force levers. And when we get to certain age brackets and injuries, sometimes those force levers and tissues aren't really working as well. So we have to figure out ways to help them become more efficient. So that's what physical therapy is. We're a doctoring profession, movement biomechanical specialists that treat all kinds of disorders and issues of the musculoskeletal system. Our big focus is of what we do as physical therapists is helping people restore function. So if you have a shoulder problem, we want to get the motion better. So you can lift overhead or reach overhead. So everything is regaining mobility, restoring function, and then getting you stronger and stable so you can live a life that's quality. So we work on improving stability through, the key word now is core stability. And what is core? And we'll address that a little bit today and teach you some simple exercises you can start adding to your home programs. If you're not doing them, you can start today. A lot of what we do is trying to achieve normal function that's less stressful on the body. And so we're going to talk through some strengthening. So if you look at this bottom of the slide, it says strengthening for the task means we're strengthening to be able to do something, not just going to do a bicep curl or a shoulder press. We want to be able to do it more times. So if you got to be able to take and get your cup out of a cupboard, how many times of a day are you going up to put a bowl or a cup into a cupboard? All right. So we want to do strengthening to task. So if I can take 2 pounds overhead for 10 reps twice a day, if I'm weak, that's going to carry over to got to get my dishes out. So are we doing things in a functional basis standpoint for what you need to do on a daily basis? So we do that through our rehab process. For instance, 12 steps to go into the house. Well, we don't want to go up and down them once a day. Maybe one of your exercises is to go up and down them a couple times a day. So that's up and down as 24 times. So that helps to build up your cardio and your leg strength and just normal stuff. So I already talked about this. We want to focus on restoring function. A lot of things too in this age bracket, we need to think about osteopenia and osteoporosis. And what do you do with that? It's softening bone. And so a lot of folks get scared and nervous about, well, first, if I fall, I have osteoporosis or osteopenia, I'm going to break a hip or break a wrist. And then how much weight bearing or loads or how much strengthening can I not do? But all the evidence shows we want to do activities and things that load the joints and load the bones because bones remodel to stresses placed on them. That's called Wolff's Law. So we want to make sure we're doing activities of load bearing, weight bearing, walking, and sometimes weightlifting to help build up bone density to help with osteoporosis. We'll kind of maybe unravel that a little bit later. Another thing we like to do is influence mobility and flexibility, strength, and gait. There's some articles that have come out about pre-morbid and risks for lifetime or just some risks about premorbidity. And they've had a correlation come together on gait speed. And, you know, if you always see, you remember your grandma or grandpa, all of a sudden they're walking slower and a little unsteady. And there's a direct correlation in gait speed and longevity. And so we're going to work on some little discussion part later talking about gait speed. And so one of the things I work on initially when I see someone in the GeriActive population age bracket, I'm looking at how many squats can you get up, sit to stand, not to the floor, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, and how fast do you walk, and what does your walking speed look like? Those two things alone, getting up and down of a chair and walking speed, are two highly favored risk factors that we can address and fix that are also precursors and can be predictors of potential risks of falls and decreased longevity. And so we are going to discuss ways that we can teach you some exercise today to help load your system, maintain good mobility, good flexibility, start working a little bit of balance into some core, and some activities that are simple that will help us achieve the goals, or at least prevent you from having to come see me on this side of things other than maybe hiking. So a role of what we do is exercise. We do a lot of exercise because that's what you can do, and you can do it on your home, at home easily, or in a gym or wherever. So roles of exercises are to improve spine stability and improve muscle strength, which we all need as we get older. And even guys that starting in our 30s, we start decreasing our testosterone level. If we're not maintaining a certain amount of strength, mobility, and flexibility, over time, we continue to lose muscle mass. And people in their 50s, 60s, 70s can still gain muscle. It just takes a little more effort to do it, but it doesn't have to be heavy weights to do it. So once again, we want to improve spinal stability and improve muscle strength. We want to address osteoporosis complications in the spine and make sure we're not doing any exercises that are going to compromise those spinal angles and actually make things worse. And I'm going to go over a list of exercises of not to do at the gym if you have any idea that you might be osteoporotic, because we don't want to cause fractures by doing some weight training that looks pretty simple if it's inappropriate. We're going to go through some general strengthening to reduce fragility and increase strength. We're going to decrease immobility-related complications and prevent falls and fractures through some of the drills we're going to do today. All exercise we do must be individualized. Of course, this is not. I got about 60 people in the class, so this is going to be individualized for the group. So it's going to be some specific things that I see that are fairly common areas of mobility and flexibility issues we address. Also, we know that role of exercise at a study in 2010, they showed that good body weight exercises, not weight training, but body weight exercises and good mobility have been able to show stronger femurs. So they saw improved bone quality and geometry in femurs. That's the long leg bones. And so that was very promising because that's one of the areas we look at when they do the DEXA scans for osteoporosis and penia. They look at the femurs as one of the areas. And so to know that we can influence that is very good, and makes people feel more confident in the exercise they're going to do. So here's some of the other things we're going to talk about, and I'll give you examples later. We want to be careful of extension-based exercises. So what is extension-based exercise? So I'll just move this over here. I'll back up a little bit. So if I'm going to do something, I'm bending backwards. Bending backwards, that's extension-based. We want to be careful of extension-based exercises because they cause the joints in our back to get compressed. And if you have a softening bone, you can cause stress fractures and other issues in those areas, and we do not want that to occur. We don't want to do extreme flexions or extensions, and we want to also watch what we do for strengthening. Aerobics, Pilates, and yoga are all good as long as done in the right fashion. We want to avoid too much side flexion and rotations, because rotations is where a lot of injuries can take place. And so side flexion is going to be when I'm bending sideways, okay? Rotations or twists. That can put a lot of stress and shear on the joints as well. And so we want to make sure we're not going to extremes in motion. You can still do those movement patterns, and I'll be showing you exercises today that you can start doing at home. I talked about how weight bearing improves bone density, and that bone loading programs, we're not going to be robotic. They're going to be comprehensive and unusual. So novel patterns of bone loading are what's needed. So we're not going to do like just a one movement pattern. They need to be more functionally based. And we've got to think about the loading frequency, like how often do you load throughout a week. And it's really not as much as you think, but consistency is key. And then all the roles of exercise are flexibility, and then do stretch after workouts. Is that better, or is it before workouts? What does that look like? And have you even heard of dynamic mobility or flexibility versus static? So traditionally, back in the day, doing sports or anything, a lot of the stretching we would do would be touch your toes, count to 10, and do 10 times or whatever, do some jumping jacks. The static stretches were the old trusty hurdler stretch, sitting on the floor trying to stretch out your hamstrings. And there's a time and place for static stretches, but what we found is dynamic stretches and mobility exercises, where basically you're stretching through movement, is more beneficial because you're stimulating multiple joints, you're stimulating multiple tissues, you're stimulating nerve receptors that help with balance and proprioceptive sense. And that's what we found is better. There's always a time for static, but dynamic or active movement patterns and mobility exercises are really, really important, especially as we age, which is kind of like a yoga and Pilates concept. And so I'll be teaching you and showing you pictures and examples in this PowerPoint, and I'll be laying on the floor and showing you these, and you can lay on your floor and do them with me, or wherever you are, and take you some simple mobility exercises that'll help address some of these issues we're talking through, and we'll talk through. Exercise principles are loading exercise muscles groups. So we're going to load the muscles. We're going to do weight-bearing loads. We're going to toward functional activities, and they've had evidence to show that these can even be as benefit people as late in their 90s. So with lots of room, lots of years for continuing to make gains. Another thing I like to talk about is a warm up and cool down. And if an exercise, if you really want to get into a good routine, at 45 to 60 minutes, 3 days a week, it's great. But some of the evidence out there also says if you only walk 10 minutes a day, your heart rate at 100 beats a minute, that has been shown to be therapeutic, great cardiovascular fitness and wellness, help with high blood pressure and blood sugar levels, just at 100 beats a minute and 10 minutes a day. And if you can add more to that time, to 15 to 20 to 30 and get up to 45 minutes, that's great. It's only going to enhance your abilities of your tissues to handle the forces you need to do, and the more unorthodox type activities you do to challenge your balance, the better your balance will become and the less fear you'll have of falling and all that good stuff. So typically 3 to 5 times a day, if you want to do that long. You could do daily workouts, 10-minute walks every single day, and then add 3 or 4, 5 times a day, something longer, more complex if you like, and I'll show you some of the exercise here shortly. Rest and recovery is super important, and as we get into our age brackets, that's almost more important than the exercise itself. For example, I used to work out 7 days a week. I'm in a different age bracket now. I'm in the 50-year-old bracket, so I lift weights 3 days a week, and I do mobility and flexibility 7 days a week. I do cardio 2 days a week, and it works out well. Making sure that my recovery days, my rest and recovery, are more days of that than there are actually lifting, and that is my stretching, my mobility, and some core versus just true strength gains and strength training. So here's just an article it came up with. So they talked about exercise programs. There can be 3 times a week. You do versus over 8 weeks. They did this with a group, and they looked at how much weight do you need to lift. And this was for folks with knee osteoarthritis, and they found that what they found worked really well was of sets of reps of 3 sets of 8, and they would do different sets of reps of max. And they found in this age bracket that as they were working the 3 times a week, 3 sets of 8 reps of some limited and partial squats and general strengthening, that these people's strength increased 174%. That's huge, 3 days a week. And they also found a correlation as they got stronger that people's gait speed also started to improve. Because they were stronger, they felt more confident. Their thigh muscles increased 9% muscle mass. They started getting faster in this gait speed. So we do a 6 meter or 20-foot gait test. And we see how fast you can do that. And we like to see it in 10 seconds if possible, 10 to 15 seconds. And these folks in this study increased their gait speed 48% by just doing 3 times a week strength training. So it's very important to keep up with some strength. So why improve gait speed? I talked about this right briefly at the very beginning, but White et al. In 2013 in Geriatric Journal of Geriatric Medicine, they did a 2,364 population of 70 and 79-year-old males and females. So pretty large population. They did a 20-meter gait speed test. They did an 8-year follow-up. The gait speed declined in 8 years, and all these folks 2.4% per year. 90% had a greater risk of dying. That's what I talked about, by decreasing gait speed. Normal gait speed is about 3 miles an hour. So as people get slower than 3 miles an hour, it becomes more of a risk factor that they sort of correlate in this age bracket. They found that most associated were the females, black race, obesity, limited knee extension, meaning they couldn't straighten their knee all the way out. They had some slight flexion in the knee, and strength issues, and low physical activity. I'll show you a picture of a sort of posture kind of that will emulate that. And you may have some peers in your peer group that might remind you of them. But we want to make sure that this study shows us that a 90% increased risk and an 8-year follow-up in people when they lost their speed under 3 miles an hour. And so we know we got to be able to influence mobility, flexibility, strength, and gait speed is the key for a GeriActive individual. So posture is big. Everybody wants to talk about the posture, and we notice that as we get older, if we're not intentionally working on our posture and trying to stand up, we start to become stoop-shouldered like our grandma or grandpa, right? So the thing is, we can try to adjust that, but there's sometimes reasons why that's there. And if we're not addressing tight muscles on the front of us that pull us down, we can try to stand up, but they're always going to overpower. So we have to find a balance and a blend of figuring out how to stretch the things that are pulling us forward, because we live our whole life in front of us, right? We live our whole life reaching in front, typing in front, eating in front, twittering in front. Everything we do is in front of us. And we very rarely ever do anything back. So when I take some exercise today, you'll see how some of the back stuff is going to help affect the posture. So we're going to work towards improving that so we can progress from not being in this, the far left picture there, upright posture, to as we age more the bent over posture. And so posture requires a balance between the neurological, the muscular, and the skeletal systems. And any changes in any one of those systems will affect movement quality, and ultimately a risk for fall. And so we can do standing static posture, but if we're not taking that to what's called dynamic and maintaining good posture through active movement principles, whether it's yoga or Pilates or life in general, then we're going to revert back into a dynamically bad posture. So we want to make sure we're training dynamic postures to get better posture dynamically. And I'll show you some drills with those here shortly. So here's what I was talking about. We talked about some of the risk factors. I don't know if you remember, it said about in that study, they found risk factors that affected gait and higher chance of death, decrease in morbidity, and length had to do with, talked about decreased knee extension, knee angles, and a poor posture and weakness. So I know I've had people come in my clinic who I've worked on that are like this gentleman in this chair, and he likes to watch his TV, but then they get out of the chair to come to therapy, and they look like they're still in the chair. They're still kind of here. Their knees are bent, and they got the same posture they were in the chair when they stand up, because what happens if that chronic posturing and not actively moving, the muscles in front of your hips, the muscles in front of your hips are the hip flexors right in the front. They pull you down forward. The chest muscles in the front will pull you around forward. And so if you're sitting in a chair slumped like the gentleman in the chair here you see, and you do that constantly and you're not doing things to help get rid of that positioning and adapt good flexibility and mobility, those muscles get tight over time. Because as we age, we get wrinkles. Wrinkles are part of our dehydration natural process. Degenerative disc disease is not a disease, it's a natural process where the water content in our cells and tissues become less. Our flexibility and extensibility of our muscles and tissues become more stiff. And so if we continue to adapt poor postures like this chair, when we go to stand up out of chair, we're going to look like we're still in the chair. So an article came out just this year from the American Journal of Orthopedics and Sports Physical Therapy talking about the importance of posture. And for years in physical therapy, we've always tried to work on corrective posture techniques. And what they're finding out now is because of computers and things, it's not so much that we can find sometimes the best way to get the best posture, but it's, are you doing the right exercises and things to be able to achieve good posture and also allow you to get in bad posture, but get out of it. So if you're having tissue tightness that keeps you in that bad posture, that's what needs to be addressed. You can have, positionally wise, sometimes get in bad posture as long as you can get back out of it. It's when you can't, you don't have the strength to do it, that becomes the problem. And so we'll be talking to and teaching some exercises to help assess that and help you improve your posture and flexibility and mobility as well. So most common is called kyphosis, is a kyphosis scoliosis, which is, if you see the second picture to the right, where you got the forward head and you got the flat back and it kind of rounds out in the mid back. That's what the kyphotic scoliosis is. It's really curved back. We see that in the previous slide too. The lady far right, maybe loosen some height, which is normal, and maybe some osteoporotic changes, you get that kyphotic hump, and that's just because of postural tightness. We want to make sure we got to try to prevent that from occurring. Chronic sitting and osteoporotic causes forward head posture, the dorsal kyphosis, flattening of the lumbar spine, protracted scapula, which just means they're rounded forward. So protracted means you kind of rounded, stump shouldered, elbows and wrists, hips, knees lose extension, and you get tight calves, and then you start getting back pain and back soreness and shoulder impingements and neck stuff. And next thing you know, you got what I call Unt's disease, because it starts shooting here everywhere, here and here and here and here and here, right? So we want to make sure we can address those so we don't get Unt's disease. And so our programs need to focus on mobility, flexibility. We're going to work on some endurance, but we got to make sure there's patient and client specific. We're not going to say, hey, Damien, we're going to go out and run 3 miles a day. And then Friday, we're going for 5. One that's, they've shown that all that long, hard pounding running, it actually is not the best thing for our joints as we age. And it actually is not the best for cardiovascular fitness long-term. So we want to make sure it's customized for each person. And if you're in your 70s and still want to run marathons, then we'll definitely train for those endurance programs. But endurance programs should be patient specific and based on what their individual needs and functioning to be. Not everybody needs to be runners or endurance athletes. And in the age population, 40s, 50s and up, it's more these interval training works real well, and complex movement patterns works real well. And workouts can be as short as 10 to 15 minutes, total body, and be very effective, and almost more effective in some cases than going to the gym for an hour. Everyone can get stronger, and you can increase muscular performance and functional reserve. And we should want to obviously, what I already talked about, we're going to make sure we're always emphasizing posture, balance, flexibility, strength, and gait speed. So gait speed, if you want to practice that at home, 20 feet, and see how fast you can do 20 feet. So a lot of the ways we do it in our clinic, I'll have a chair. I'll grab a chair, I'll demonstrate that while I'm just talking about it. I'm going to drop this down on the lower seat, and I'll put a chair, and I'll kind of demonstrate what that looks like so you can practice at home. So usually you just get a chair, you sit down in a chair, and you'll have 20 feet that you mark off. So typically you want to do 10 feet forward, 10 feet backwards. And you go walk 10 feet at 10 feet mark, turn around and have a seat. So you'll stand up, you walk 10 feet, turn around, and then have a seat. And you time yourself. And if you're 10 seconds, 12 to 10 seconds, that is awesome. If you're 15 seconds, you got a gait speed issue. And if you're slower than that, then we need to really think about, we got to increase some speed. So that's a simple test you could do at home, 20 feet, come sit to stand right out of your chair, 10 feet out, 10 feet back, stop your stopwatch. Can you do it in under 10 seconds? And if not, where are you within that? 12 still good. 20 seconds is a problem, and you need to think about what's going on. And if you have something like that, if you do a self-test and you go, wow, I didn't know I was walking that slow, feel free to call us. Go call a physical therapist and say, hey, or call your doctor and say, I've got some issues going on. I noticed my gait has gotten slower, and I know there's some correlation with slow gait and fall and other health things in my age bracket, and I want to not let that happen. I want to improve my quality of life. And then they can refer you to a physical therapist, and they can help address that and get you in the right program for some specifics. So that's gait. Another test is called the sit-to-stand test. I'll put it back in my chair again. Simple test. This is, can you get up out of a chair? And there's 3 parameters you see there. I got the 3 principles. Can you do 5 reps in under 10 seconds? So I'm sitting, I just stand up. Can I get 5 in under 10 seconds? Okay. And if you get to that and you're like, oh man, my legs are tired, then take a break. Or can you even do 10 reps? And then if you want to really test it, set your timer for 30 seconds and see how many you can do in 30 seconds, okay? So we could do an active participation if everybody has a chair. Why don't we try that? And if everybody wants to sort of see if you could do, set a 10-second timer or count 10 seconds, and everybody just do a sit to stand and see if you can get 5 reps. How long does it take you to do 5 reps? So we're just gonna do watch and watch. When you're ready, do your 5 times up and down. And can you do 5 reps in under 10 seconds? I see Damien doing them. I see some folks here doing these squats. And you can see how do your legs hold up. And if you struggle to get 5, then you know that kind of gives you some ammo here of some things you want to address. So what would your exercise be? Sit to stand. So you can practice that. And ways you can make it easier, you can take a pillow and put it on the chair so it's not as deep. And you start higher. And you work on increasing your sit to stands. Hey, I can do that. Now I can do 10. Or let's say you're one of these people, I don't see everybody in the view. Let's say you can't get 10. You can barely get 2 without even using your hands. Well, then you can put some more pillows under you and you can start working on your strength. And as you get stronger, take a pillow out. Take the next pillow out. And now as you get deeper in your squats, sit to stands, and your speed goes up, then you've got a positive strength gains. And you haven't had to use any exercise equipment. And you can do this every single day and work on your speed. Now, let's go to the last test of these. So we get your 5 reps, you were able to do that. Oh, great. Now take a little break. And sometimes I'll give about 40 seconds of rest. And we'll do a 30-second test. A 30-second test, you put a 30-second timer on, and you do as many as you can in 30 seconds. So based on your speed, you can go fast or you go slow. And that's a nice predictor because now what we talked about in the previous slide before about endurance training, we're starting to build up muscle endurance, right? Because if you can do 30 times up out of a chair, that one time that you got to go to the toilet or the one time you're going to sit down is a piece of cake. So if you go, hey, I can do 20 in the 30 seconds, that's pretty good pace. Now we're working on speed of contraction. And so one of the risk factors, or when it comes to muscle physiology, we have what's called fast twitch muscles and slow twitch muscles. And the muscles that start to become deconditioned the quickest as we age are the fast twitch muscles, which is why gait speed slows down. But fast twitch muscles are a response muscle too and help with posture, more so balance and fall prevention because they got to catch quick, right? So as it startles you, those muscles jump. So doing things, get your baseline, but if you can start doing faster reps and sets of these body weight sit to stands, and we start stimulating the fast twitch fibers to come back, those are some of our protective muscles for fall prevention and balance, okay? Then that'll carry you over to our gait speed. So the sit to stand test, if you want to do those, we'll do 30 seconds. I'll tell everybody when to go. We'll watch it here. And in 5 seconds, we'll do as many as you can in 30, 2, 1, go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, stop. So whatever your number is, so did you get 10 or more? Did you get 10 or more? Your heart rate's probably working now, right? Everybody's like, guess what? That's a little anaerobic and aerobic capacity. That's in muscle endurance. That's fast twitch fibers we're trying to kick in. And if you struggle to get 10, that's an example of, hey, I need to do something. If you got 20, you're getting up there. I got 24. I work out ready. My heart's still going, okay? That is a neat, cool, you don't need to, COVID-19 got nobody. You can do this at home, right? You just now worked on developing your quad strength, speed of contraction, fall prevention, and some balance activation with a simple exercise. You want to make that more challenging? Hold a gallon of milk, right? You don't need to get a weights. Hold a gallon of milk. Hold a bag of dog food. You can change it up. You can work on muscle mass by slowing it down, doing less reps with more weight. But sit to stand test, very, very important. That becomes an exercise. Next. So here's, I talked about this a little bit ago, some things about exercise we got to be careful of. Give everybody a little break before we do some more exercise here. We want to be careful of twisting, extreme extension, and we want to be careful of flexion-based activations, okay? Because we're already flexed. We're sitting in a chair. We're already bent forward, okay? Examples are seated rows. So seated rows, weight pulling it back. If you maintain good positioning, all right? Flexion hamstring stretches and standing. So if I'm stretching, stretching out my hamstring, right? That, be careful, we gotta be careful of the back. I'll show you a different way to stretch your hamstrings. Crunches, everybody likes crunches. Crunches are not so good on our back as we gauge. There's a lot of other things I'm gonna show you today, super simple to work the abs and core. Chest flies, when you're laying down, or bench press. Gotta be careful with that stuff. Light weights are great. But how far do you go? You don't need to go past, and then we can have a whole other discussion on weight training for GeriActive, but we don't have to go big flies to get results. Knee extension machines. Everybody likes a knee extension machine. So we'll pretend I'm at the gym. I'm sitting in my little machine, and I put the weights down to my ankle, and I'm sitting there and doing my knee extensions, right? Ugh. Everybody seen those at the gym? Worst exercise you could ever do. They got to ban those from the gym. Knee extension machines cause increased patellar kneecap compression into the bone. It causes more knee problems. Do your sit to stand squats. Stay in your chair. Stay away from knee extensions. They cause a lot of problems in the knees. We see that. I don't teach any of my patients. I've been practicing 26 years. I have none of my patients ever do knee extensions, ever in 26 years. And they all play sports. They do just fine. Whether they're GeriActive tennis players or they're high school soccer players. Lat pull downs, another great exercise like pull-ups. Great exercise with the right technique. We got to make sure it's coming to the chest, not behind the neck, causing crazy postures. Toe touch with twists. Not a good idea. Back in the day, right? Gonna stretch out my hamstrings. There's all cross them over, and twist. Or we got to be careful of toe touching and twists because we don't want to compromise your back. Once again, I'm going to show you some super easy exercise today, and you all get to participate at home. Back stretches. Got to be careful of back stretches. So we're going to skip. Those are contraindicated exercises in this population of age. So now we're going to drift into the exercises for you all. Mobility, posture, and strength. And I'm going to show a picture, and then we're going to do them. Okay? But I'll breeze through them real quickly, then we'll go back and recess. So pelvic clock is a mobility exercise. It helps, it's not as strengthening, but it keeps the low back loose and limber. And it helps provide nutrition to discs. As we age, our discs become dehydrated. That's normal. As they call it degenerative disc disease, it's not a disease. It's a normal aging process. Discs get smaller. That's why we get shorter. They shrink, we get shorter. But it helps promote good nutrition to the disc and keeps the joints loose and limber. Open books, I'll show you through, is designed to open up the chest, work on the upper back. I talked about that person's back posture, the kyphosis, slump forward. This is going to help to keep that loose and limber and open up the chest muscle so you don't get pulled down as much. Butterflies, another active stretch for the chest, and also activates muscles in the back. We'll go through each of these, and that's going to help with posture stability. I'm going to go through all these. Toe walking and heel walking. Balance, gait, speed of gait. Active hamstrings, a different way of stretching hamstrings. Different ways of stretching the quad, where you could do it laying down or you're standing up. Hip stretches for piriformis or your butt muscle. It very often gets tight. People drive a lot to get out. Oh, my butt, I got that sciatica. Or I'm just sore and I can't get out and the hips are stiff. This is a muscle for called a piriformis. I'm going to show you a couple different techniques for doing that stretch. And for people who do yoga, another one's the pigeon. I'm going to show you some core activation. We need to get our glutes stronger because as we get older, we get big gut, no butt. We don't want to lose our butt and we want to get our gut. And so we want to make sure our butt muscle, which is the stabilizer for our hips and our back. That's the butt, the gluteus maximus, the butt muscle, helps support the lumbar and sacral spine. And as we age, walk around, when the mall opens back up, go to the mall and watch people, see how many people don't have butt, right? And you can tell you their core is weak. And then their hip flexors are tight and their posture is starting to drift and their gait speed's going down. So we're working the glutes. Glutes are very effective, and I'll show you 2 exercise progression, and I'm gonna show you some really unique core exercises through bracing and shoulder taps and side planks that are different that'll help improve core versus doing crunches. Okay, so we'll go through those and then we'll be done. I think we're right on track for about 15 minutes or so left. So I'm gonna go back to the beginning. I'm gonna go through each one of these individually. And all you gotta do is lay on the floor. I'm gonna drop this computer to the floor and I'll be taking it with you. And I'll demonstrate and we'll do them together. I feel like Richard Simmons here. All right, so for pelvic clocks, you can lay on your back. I think you can still see me there. So I'm laying on my back, knees bent up. The picture shows a clock on top of the pelvis. So if I'm facing you, you can see where my feet are. My feet are about shoulder width apart, and that clock's on top. 12 o'clock is pointing toward my nose, 6 o'clock is toward my toes, okay? 3 o'clock is my right hip pocket. 3 o'clock is my left hip pocket, 9 o'clock is my right hip pocket. You can see the picture. So if you've ever done pelvic tilts before, this is basically a pelvic tilt, but it's better because it's got more movements. So pelvic tilt is flatten your back. Can you let me make that a little better. So you can kind of see my back. That's arching my back. So I'm flattening my back there. That's 12 o'clock or pelvic tilt. And I'm going to arch. See my hand can kind of slide underneath? That's a 6 o'clock or anterior tilt. So 12 o'clock is toward the nose. 6 o'clock is toward your toes. If you have pain with those, stay pain-free. Don't ever exercise into pain. And so you may not be, your clock may be really small or may be really big. This is not a strengthening. You're not holding firm muscles. You're just rolling your pelvis up and down 12 to 6. Let your head relax. And the way I do it is I roll up to 12, hold it for 2 seconds, and then down to 6, hold it 2 seconds. And I'm going to go back and forth, 10 repetitions. Loosen the back. Start small. The motion can get bigger, but needs to be pain-free. Don't push into pain. Don't force the movement. What this is doing is causing the bones in your back to flex and extend. And the way our discs in our back get nutrition is through movement. So as they're going this way and this way, it's pushing the fluids in and out of the disc to help rehydrate it, keep it limber and supple. So that's one. If you can do that well, then we're going to start going circles in the clock. So this is where you bring out your belly dancing skills or your hula hoop skills, and you go to 12 o'clock, and you're going to roll your pelvis around a circle. So I'll come this way. You can kind of see I'm going to roll up to 12, I'm going to roll around over to 3, down to 6, and then back over to 9, up to 12. So it's going to look like this, 12 and around. And my knees are going to move because I'm letting everything just kind of move fluidly. And I'm just rolling the pelvis, trying to roll it around. So if you can imagine your pelvis as a bowl of soup or a clock, you're going to try to roll on the rim of that bowl or a clock as it rolls around the clock. And now we're working in more degrees of motion because we don't live life in one plane. We don't walk around like robots. We have to react and interact in a social environment. So we have joints that have to be able to move. And if we're not training them like a pelvic clock is here with movements, then we're missing some of the boat of preventative care, good mobility, nutritional health of the tissue, what we call proprioceptors or balance sense receptors, nerve receptors in our spine. This helps to stimulate that. I start every day with 10, 12 to 6 clocks, and then 10 times clockwise and 10 times counterclockwise. Because in the morning, 50 years and older, I'm a little stiff in the morning, right? Back's a little stiff. Well, let's do some clocks and get those loosened up, get some nutrition to our spine. Now you got a body-brain connection of going, hey, I'm moving, I'm feeling good. All right, that's pelvic clocks. Fantastic exercise. If you have pain with that, you can call me. I'll assess why you have pain with it, but they should be pain-free. And you can make these clocks as big as you want, or I have some people when they're a lot of pain, acute pain back issues, I have them do wristwatches. I said, just barely move. A wristwatch is better than no movement at all. Pelvic clocks, okay? Next exercise, we're still on the floor. These are open books. It's an active chest mobility and a mid-back spine called thoracic spine mobility. Super important, opens the chest, works the neck. It's called open books. So I'll demonstrate this. I'm gonna lay on my side, and you can do these in your bed. I'm gonna lay on my side, bent knee up, so hook line position this way. My arms are in front. This is my book. This is opening the book, and that's closing the book. So as I open the book, I'm gonna roll my shoulders back, my knees stay together. I try to get to the floor and close the book. I'm not bouncing it. I'm just moving nice and controlled. I'm rotating 10 times one way, let the head move with it. It loosens the neck, it loosens the shoulders, it loosens the mid-thoracic spine, loosens up the pec flexibility and the low back. Do 10 times one side, and then you're gonna spin and do 10 times on the other side. Open books, loosen them up. Good mobility. Okay. So we got pelvic clocks, open books. Everybody with me? Everybody good? Ready to next exercise? I see hands in the air. I know people are doing them. I see them. These hands, because they're doing open books. There he is. I see you. Now the next one is butterflies. So we kind of got the spine loosened up from the bottom up and the top down, clocks and open books. And now we're going to go into some muscle retraining, which also addresses the posture. These are called butterflies. So for butterflies, you can do standing and sitting, and what doesn't matter. But it looks like a W. If you're like a letter W, and you're going to turn your hands outward as I drop my elbows down and back into my back pockets. So I'll stand this up so you can see me do it in standing. So if I come from here, W turns back. So if I turn to the side, my hands turn outward as my elbows drop down and back, and my chest elevates. Chest elevates. Come closer. Turn the hands out. Chest elevates. What's that do to my shoulder? Here I'm stoop shouldered. Look at that. Got my shoulder in a better posture. You should feel a stretch through here, and you should feel a tightening of the muscles right along your shoulder blades. Most important muscles for shoulder stability and preventing shoulder impingement. Very important muscles to prevent rotator cuff issues, which we all will get by the time we're 75 to 80. We all have some kind of underlying rotator cuff issue. So butterflies, you don't need to come forward. I keep my hands by my ears. Hands by my ears. Turn the hands outward, drop the elbows down and back. I'll step back a little further so you can see better. Hands outward, down and back. 5-second holds and relax. 5-second holds and relax. 5-second holds, relax. Everybody should be feeling a little stretch and definitely feel those muscles working along the shoulder blades. Sandra, you feel that? Yes. Damon, you feeling that? Feel that working in the back? Yeah, good. Simple exercise, right? You don't need a lot of equipment. Makes a difference. So we have open books and pelvic clocks, open books for general mobility. Getting things loosened up. We can now go to butterflies for posture. Opening that chest up, freeing up, and retraining scapular or shoulder blade muscles. Now we're going to work from upper body. We're going to work our way down to the floor. Toe walking and heel walking. How many people can even go up on their toes or heels? When you start going on a smaller base of support, I think that might challenge our balance a little bit, right? So simple, toe walking, heel walking. You walk on your toes, you walk on your heels. Pick out a place that you did your 20-foot walk or your 20-foot sit to stand test. And then you, every day, just practice walking on your toes. And then walking on your heels. All right? A lot of folks I get in here in the GeriActive age population, I ask them if they walk on their toes and heels. They said, I haven't done that since I was a kid. Well, I said, you're still a kid. It's time to keep doing it. Because that helps with fall prevention and training his balance sense. Something simple as toe and heel walking. From there, we're going to go to some leg stretches. Hamstrings, very, very important. We stretch the hamstrings. They attach the hamstrings attached below the knee and up into the low back area with the way the fascia system comes together. So it attaches the pelvis and affects the whole pelvis spine. I'm going to show you that. We'll do that one, and I'll follow that right up with a quad stretch since we'll already be on the floor. And then I'll show you, we'll go to a couple others. So I'll lay back on the floor again. I'll demonstrate these first, and we'll kind of go through them. So an active hamstring or dynamic hamstring, you can lay flat. Once again, you can do this on your bed, it's fine. Both legs are flat, my head's flat. I bring one leg up at a 90 degree position in the knee, hold behind the knee. I'm not pulling, just hold and let it relax. I'm completely relaxed. I'm gonna straighten this leg up and I'm pull my toes back. Let me change the angle just a little bit more so you can see my foot. So as I straighten this leg up, I pull this right foot toes towards my nose so it really gets a good pull through here. and I'm holding for 2 seconds and back off. 2 seconds stretch, 2 seconds no stretch. Nice and fluid. Do that 10 times on each leg. This is not a strong hold, strong stretch. We need to be gentle with our tissues and particularly the sciatic nerve. If I try to do a low load stretch or the old traditional sitting forward and just hamstring stretches like we taught back in school days, at this age bracket, it can irritate a sciatic nerve and your low back. And this active hamstring technique works fantastic at loosening the hamstring up, the sciatic nerve, and it's very gentle. 2 seconds to stretch, 2 seconds no stretch, and you do that 10 times every day. We need to maintain good mobility. Maintaining good mobility affects how the muscles respond, their impulse, their feedback, balance, and ultimately gait speed. That's hamstrings. The next one, while on the floor, we could do the quad stretch. Because we talked about the guy in the chair sitting forward, all these muscles get tight through here and pulls him down. So we want to make sure we don't get pulled down. So I can grab, you want to bring the leg up in front of you. If you try to pull it back, you might get a cramp in your leg. That's not very fun getting Charlie horses back in the back. So you want to bring it up, grab the shoestrings and kind of drift the leg back and then pull up with your hand, okay? So I'll lay on my stomach, but it'll look like this is what you're trying to do. Pull it back, pause it, and relax. Same thing, pause it, 2 seconds, and relax. 2 seconds, relax. You can do it on your stomach like I did. You can do it on your side. And I'll show you how to also do it in standing. And if you can get to where you can do it on standing, you get to influence your balance again, which affects your gait. So that's a quad stretch that you could do sideline on your stomach, or you can do it standing with quad walks. And I'll show you what a quad walk looks like. Because if you can get to where you do it like this way, walking, you're going to be able to influence your balance. And the more comfortable you with your balance, the less fear of falling you'll have, right? So I'll show you what that looks like walking. Much more involved. If you're nervous, don't do it at home. Nobody falls today, but I'll always show you what it looks like. So I'm going to bring that leg up. Looks like the same stretch. So I'm going to kind of pull it up as I go. And I'll back up a little bit. So I'm going to step, left leg, right leg, left leg, right leg. And I'll do it in that same 20-meter test. If I come forward towards you, step, pull, 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 pull. So those are called quad walks. Just another variation of a quad stretch that can ultimately affect your balance. Okay. The next two are for the hips. For hips, stretch out the hips. You've been on a long road, your butt muscle gets tight, you're getting symptoms on the leg. If you do it standing, it's a figure 4. So just like the quad walk, but I'm going to grab my right leg at the ankle and the knee, and I'm pulling them both up toward my chest. So it's here, pulling both up, getting a stretch in my glute. If you could do it standing, obviously you could tell it is a balanced piece to it. But you want to make sure, what you want to be careful of is not grabbing, you don't want to be grabbing the foot and twisting the knee. You're going to grab the knee and the ankle pulled off as a unit. You want to feel a stretch in your bottom, don't want to torque the knee and pull it all up. So if there's a balance piece to it, it's something you can work through, but if your balance still struggles with that, then the next picture is how you do it on the floor. Looks like the same position in the figure 4. I'm grabbing my knee and the ankle and I'm pulling it all up toward my chest together, not twisting the knee, and feeling a stretch in my buttock. And hold that for about 15 seconds and do it a couple times a day. Very commonly does this tissue get tight. If you ever do yoga, if you lay in your stomach, it's called a pigeon stretch, and that's what the pigeon stretch is supposed to address. But this is a nice, safe way to protect your back because we talked about being careful of extreme flexions and extensions. This particular technique allows us to protect the spine and yet still stretch the hip and butt. Okay? Everybody doing okay? Yeah, I see people practicing it. I see them getting them off the floor. This is great. Awesome. All right, so that's some simple stretches, top to bottom. Now we're going to switch gears and I'm going to go into some core. I talked about core a little bit ago. So we're going to focus on some gluteal strengthening and then some abs, and then our lecture will be winding down. So glutes, very important. There's lots of different ones, but once again, we're going to protect the spine. So laying in your stomach and doing swimmers are great, but we got to be careful of extensions. So I like bridges. Bridges are very good because your feet are on the floor. It's called closed chain, and we work on the glutes. So in this one, you lay on your back, You put your feet about shoulder width apart. You squeeze your butt cheeks and you lift your bottom up as high as you can, as long as there's no pain. And you squeeze your bottom with the top. You're gonna hold it for about 5 seconds. Try for a set of 10 or maybe 2 sets of 10. Okay, those are called bridging up and down. So I'll show you those, and I'll show you the one after that one. Let's see here. So a basic bridge. These are bent up, shoulder width apart. And I'm going to lift up, squeeze my bottom, hold it for 5 seconds, and then back down. If you end up getting a pull in your hamstring, that tells me your hamstrings need more work. They're too tight. You should be able to get your glutes fired, not so much your hamstrings, and you're gonna do that 10 reps. The next exercise is, if that gets easy, then you're gonna lift up, hold it up, and you're gonna move your knees in and outward without letting your bottom drop. These are called bridging in and outs. So a lot of rotational stability, which is very, very important. So it's 10 times in and out, and that's back down. That would be 1. So to face this way, and then lift up, butts up, move my knees in and out 10 times, not too fast, not too slow, and then back down. That would be 2. The goal is to be able to accomplish 10 sets of those. So you're talking 100 reps in and out. That's a good goal to shoot for. That is going to work your booty. That is going to help stabilize your spine. That's going to give you the extension strength to get up and down off the floor. This is going to help balance sense, because your glutes are super important and primary muscles for balance and stability, as well as your core. So that's bridging up and down, and that's bridging in and outs, which I just talked through. Okay. Now we're going to switch to core. Simple. We're going to not doing crunches. We're going to do something totally different. So quad bracing. So quadruped is up on your hands and knees. You can do this on your bed. You can do it modified standing. If I come back, and let's say this is a kitchen counter, I can do it this way. If I can't get on the floor on my knees or hands, I can do it this way. The press is basically what we're doing is we're starting in that position where your belly's down, and I'm going to let my belly sag a little bit. Back doesn't move. Now from there, I'm going to draw my belly up and in. I'm not straining or holding my breath, but I'm feeling these muscles tighten up right in here. It's called the transverse abdominis. That's your body's natural muscle corset, transverse abdominis. So I'm drawing my belly button into my back. If I find myself straining or holding my breath, too hard of a contraction. It's a very isolated muscle. Draw it in, hold it 5 seconds, and back down, let the belly sag. And I'm gonna try 10 to 15 reps of those. And you're gonna feel, you all should if you practice this, you will feel it within a couple reps of those muscles tightened up to your belly. So that's a quadruped neutral spine brace. Activating the transverse abdominis for core stability. From there, you can progress to shoulder taps and ultimately push-ups. Push-ups are fantastic, total body for core. But not everybody has the strength to do push-up. But you can progress there. And the next thing is to then, from bracing that way, to do what's called shoulder taps. I'll show you those. I'll kind of go to the treatment table here. So shoulder taps, I usually start about 30-inch table, a bed or countertop. And let's see, I'm gonna start back. So for those who've ever done planks, I'm gonna look like I'm in a plank position. And I'm gonna do like I just did. I'm gonna draw my belly in and hold that. But then I'm going to tap my shoulders, and I'm trying to keep as stable as I can. I don't want any rocking hips. So it's back and forth, tap, tap, tap. That single arm support, those abs are gonna kick in. And that's gonna work. You're gonna start feeling that through your shoulders. So working on shoulder stability, working on core. And then to make it harder, you just go down lower. So if you have stairs to your house, the stairs are 6 to 8 inches. So you just kind of, as you get stronger, you just work your way down the stairs until you can do it on the floor. Push-up position, shoulder taps works that core a lot. So that's just a neat functional way of body weight core stability. And by being closed chain, meaning your hands are on the ground, we know we're also working rotator cuff stability as well. So we get a bigger bang for our buck, which then takes us to side planks, which are very good, but also can be very challenging because of the shoulder. So if you have any shoulder issues at all, do not do side planks unless you know you can do pain-free. I don't typically do true planks. I do shoulder taps in place of true planks, but I'll do side planks some, and you can start at the knees and then work your way to the feet. So with those, I'll start at the knees, everything's in line, and I'll see if I can hold for 30 seconds. And if I could do 30 seconds, I'll do 30 seconds twice on each side. If I can only do 10 seconds, well, then I do 10 seconds, but I add 5 seconds every couple of days, and I do this every day until I can get up to 1 minute twice on each side. Once you can do it 1 minute twice on each side at the knees, then you go to the feet and you go back to 30 seconds and build it back up. And guaranteed you'll get your core stronger and your shoulders stronger. Okay, everybody good? So that's the different ways of working the core. I'm gonna fast forward to that. And we're gonna, the last thing we're gonna talk through, just a couple more slides. So we kind of got mobility, we got some flexibility, we got some core stability, and we already talked about the sit to stand. And so here's sort of a protocol we talked about a little bit ago. So you start with your sit to stand, start with working to 15 to 30 reps, right? As many as possible in 30 seconds, and then work up to 2 to 3 rounds, build up your endurance. And then you could ultimately hold dumbbells or a gallon of milk or whatever. So obviously I'm gonna put this slide back to where we talked about it earlier in this presentation. But that's something you could do 2 to 3 days a week to work on your leg strength and speed of strength. And that's kind of it. That's what we used to look like. This is more what we look like. But thanks for your time. I know we're right at 1:05, almost on time, Rodney, almost there.
Well, Bill, I'm going to cancel your spotlight video, bring us all back together. And I have to say thank you, not just for your time, but for your energy. It's great that people are following along, and by far the most active presentation that we've ever had in the Zoom format. And I know people appreciate, especially during this time, these tips and tools for remaining healthy at home. And we're going to give people the ability to unmute themselves and ask any questions that you might have.
Okay.
And you all do have the ability to unmute your microphones at this point, and I will look through the chat window.
I see there's some questions on the chat there.
There is some conversation. One, I know we're recording this and we're going to post it. I'm imagining people will go back and play the video, so that will be a helpful resource as they do revisit if they didn't follow along. Someone else had mentioned, could they get a copy of your PowerPoint? That's something I could post along with it. We will connect afterwards to get that. We will make it available to you all at our website. I'll remind you of what that is. There was another comment, Bill, that says halfway through the set to stand trial, 30-second trial, I got a pain in the top of my knee as I stood up. Any advice about what to do there?
We need to assess that knee. So we definitely have a mobility flexibility issue we need to probably look at. Could be a pretty quick fix. Yeah, if you're having pain, we need to make sure that gets taken care of. If you're where it is right at the top of the knee, so probably got a little capsular impingement, kind of come up and down, the kneecap kind of pinched there. So a lack of flexibility and lack of strength probably contributed to that. I wonder how many could complete the 30 seconds. How many reps did you get when you did? Could you do the 5 or 10 reps?
And that's something, Leslie, I don't know if you want to respond.
Yeah.
Sometimes
she can type it. I can see it here if she wants.
And there we go, Bill. 5 seconds under 10, 5 reps.
Did 5 reps under 10. Okay. Okay. So she's got it. She just doesn't have quite maybe the endurance. So with the quick stuff, a couple of reps, she was fine. So it tells me that we need to work on some endurance strength and then look at maybe seeing if there's an imbalance in the flexibility strength issues that could be pretty quickly and easily addressed, and then get her to where she can do those sets of them for long term.
There's another question about how do these exercises compare to aqua aerobics? Are there advantages to exercising in water?
Absolutely, yeah. So a good question. I love aquatic therapy, and exercise in water is fantastic, especially if you got any spinal or joint issues, because it takes away body weight and gravity, and you can do a lot of similar stuff. But you're standing, and so we still got to be cautious of extension and flexion barriers and rotations. So I think a complement of some of these pelvic clocks and open books and basic flexibility, as well as aquatic therapy, can really put together a nice program for you.
And again, if anyone wants to chime in, don't worry. I don't think you're going to talk over others. We don't have many talking at once. So feel free to unmute your microphones if you'd like to ask a question by audio.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
This is Jennifer
Yes.
Lowe. I saw you for TMJ.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so my she's a teacher in
Perfect.
LOI.
Yeah.
So I'm back in town. Unfortunately, my TMJ, I'm sorry to interrupt this, but like my TMJ has gotten horribly so much worse. My jaw's popping and like, it's just, I went to a doctor here. He thought that I had the sinus problem and didn't have TMJ. And then I also have really tight shoulders from all the time I spend at the piano. And I feel like it might even be related. Because of COVID, I can't come in. I've got Optima Health Insurance now. Could I do telehealth for TMJ? Or would you suggest, it's gotten really bad.
Yeah. I mean, we do telehealth. It's going to be, we should probably talk about that at another time. But you could call in and we could address that and talk it through another time and see if there's some things we could do to help manage that through telehealth for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? Bud, I see you tapping on the screen. I know I should thank you as well for making the introduction to Bill and arranging for this presentation back in April, which we're now getting to here in the fall due to the change in plans and availability.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm very impressed with what you can do in your own home. So do it yourself. We have no excuse now. In my day of running, they said there was such a thing as no excuses.
Right.
So you're in your house, you're in your gym. And one other thing I was going to ask is probably 15 years ago or more, I went to a seminar where a guy with a PhD claimed something to the effect that if you sit longer than 17 minutes at a time, your body actually goes into mini atrophy. Anyway, I don't know if there's any comment you had on that. And then the other one was whether or not studies have shown the time of day that you do it makes any difference. You have to find it yourself, or is there a recommended morning, whatever? Thank you.
Yeah, I think the 17-minute atrophy, I find that interesting. As long as you're getting up and doing stuff outside the 17 minutes, then you prevent an atrophy. As far as time of day, I always have my patients book in their days. Start their day with mobility. And now they're obviously having symptoms, but otherwise, I like to start the day. Why not get out of the bed when you're stiffer and whatnot? Start your day with your mobility, get you loosened up. And if you want to do a second one today, it's certainly not going to hurt. Or if you have a time you like to work out later in the day, to do your mobility and stretches before your workout.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bill, there was a question in the chat window, and I guess I will also rephrase it. Is it recommended? Let me bring this up here. I'm sure it is. Walking and bicycling, those being helpful activities for this age group.
Absolutely. Walking, like I said earlier, in the articles that come out, if you can walk 10 minutes a day, not like just I'm walking the house, but like a set time aside, 10 minutes a day, 4 miles an hour-ish, basically enough to get your heart rate to 100 beats a minute, and maintain that for 10 minutes. It's the most beneficial of anything you could ever do. If you are unable to walk because of knees or ankle issues, then cycling is another good option to offload. But for whatever cycling, you have to usually double the amount of time because it's less stressful on the body and takes a little more to get the same kind of benefit from it as running or walking. But yeah, cycling and walking, fantastic.
Any other questions or comments? And while you're bringing this up, I'm going to feel free if you do have a question or comment to jump in here in these last 2 minutes. But I wanted to share this screen just to show you what the website is. If you're joining us for the first time, our website is www.jmu.edu/LLI. The program exists to help older adults remain physically active, socially active, intellectually engaged. You will find this recording on that website. You'll find other learning opportunities. And I do want to mention that this is the first of 2 free events today. At 4:30 p.m., we are going to have a virtual social hour that's provided by our hospitality committee. So I wanted you to be able to see that website where you know you will be able to get a copy of this recording. We usually try to post it within 24 hours. It's almost available immediately, and then we have to put it up on the website. But any other questions for Dr. Johnson before we let him go here today?
I have a question, but before I have the question, I just wanted to say thank you to Bill. 7 years ago, I went to him and I was in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I remember.
Walking without it, being in a wheelchair or cane or anything. So, but I do have a question. My posture is getting worse, but I don't look like the guy in the chair, but I probably sleep like that because I have acid reflux. So I sleep on 2 pillows, and that's probably causing this. Do you have any suggestions as to what to do about that? I mean, or what I...
Yeah. So what I find in folks like you who you have to slip in those positions because of your situation is it's even more important that you get on a once or twice a day routine I just talked through, because that prevents you. You can adapt, you can get in positions as long as you can get out of those positions. As long as you got the mobility and flexibility to get out of it and be normal positions, you can sleep that way all the time, just as long as you can get out of those positions. So getting into a good mobility, flexibility routine would be helpful.
Okay, thank you for these exercises.
And Barbara, I think just thank you for sharing your story. It's great to know that this has worked for you, that you've made progress. You're back on your feet. I want to thank you and everyone who took the time to join us and attend today. Thank Bill again for just a wonderful presentation and all these tools and tips. And for everyone, I want to say, have a good day and remain well. I know that this will help you do so.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care,
Thanks.
Bill.
Bye.
Moving.
Hey, Rodney, just let me know how to get the PowerPoint to you and we can hook it up later.
I will do so. I'll connect by email.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot. You too. Bye.
Thank you so much.